Yo, GM. How's everybody doing? Put out a couple messages. Into the chat. Let me just send out a quick post, and then we'll get this show started. Hermit says GM. Radu Lazar says GM. Small crowd so far, but I imagine a few people will start to trickle in as they know that we're getting going. A bunch of requests today that we're going to work through. Let me just put these posts. Okay. That one's done. Sorry, just bear with me. And how is everyone doing on this fine Wednesday afternoon? Well, it's afternoon for me. It's around just afternoon. Don't know what part of the world most of you are all joining from. But for me, it's just afternoon. Okay. Posted. Awesome. Okay, well, GM to everyone that's joining us live right now. My name is 0xRapture, and this is Astrology for Men, where I will chart any shitcoin with a pulse. We're brought to you by The Daily Edge. Let me pop this up, do all these things. Here we go. Brought to you by The Daily Edge. Subscribe at thedailyedge.com/subscribe, where you get a daily dose of alpha intel and insights delivered direct to your inbox. Written by the OG on-chain wizard himself. It's what it is a look at the previous day on-chain and all the activities that were most notable. Interesting launches, where volume was headed, what wallets were aping. Yeah, it's a great way to get caught up on the previous day if you're not able to spend your whole time on chain. If you've got a day job or family or whatever it is you have in between, getting caught up in about a 5-minute read is a great way to stay on top of the markets and point you in the direction of everything important that has happened, and so that you're not chasing your tail. Want to remind everyone to like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoy what I'm doing here. Always feels so funny doing those things, but it does help. We're trying to grow the channel, trying to get more subscribers, help educate more people. And I've mentioned this before, that I have two purposes with this show. The first one is to either help people make money, and the second is to prevent people from losing money. And we do that by analyzing the charts and seeing what it is that I see, and helping you buy with structure, helping you buy with the trend instead of against the trend, and helping you get out of a trade when the trend goes against you. That's what we're all about here. Okay, so we've got a decent list. Let me pull up the list and you guys can take a look. Let's get rid of this for now. There we go. Let's pull up the list. Okay. So it's fairly, this is not the right list. Here we go. There's the list. Fairly stacked list. We've got about 20 tokens that were requested. Also had a request to take a look. Well, as you all know, at the beginning of the streams, I do like to take a look at the majors. So we'll come back to this list and we'll get through them. hoping to get this stream done in under 2 hours. We'll see how quickly we can get through it. I don't want to loiter and linger for too long on things. Just want to kind of power through and get you guys on with your day. At some point, I would like these to get down to, an hour or so, but up until now, they've been about 2-hour streams. So I do apologize when they get lengthy, but I like to walk through each step and help you guys get a better understanding of what it is that I'm doing, how it is that I view things, so that you can take that and apply it to your own charts, so you can learn from what it is that I'm doing. So let's pull up the majors and take a look. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because my primary, where I do the majority of my work is on-chain shitcoins and not really on the majors. I just like to look at majors to get a understanding of the broader market sentiment and understanding of where we're going. Last night, we had some sell-off. It was a bit of a red night overnight. It sort of was a lagging move after equity. I believe $1.05 trillion worth of wealth was wiped off of the equity markets yesterday in the US. And we can see, don't mind this analysis, I haven't updated in a while, but this is the SPX. Weekly is definitely red. It looks as though it's come up into a supply area after it broke below this here, closed below, and now it's kind of come up in here into the supply. I'm going to spend too much time here because I haven't updated this chart in a few weeks, but it is acting as supply and rejecting so far. Hopefully it's not some sort of double top scenario where we just sort of like keep coming down further, but that's not what we're here for. On majors, someone specifically requested Solana. So let's just take a look. Let's see what we got here. Zoom out monthly. Okay. We can see there's this monthly demand here that it's tagged 1, 2, 3 months. It's come into the monthly demand, all while holding above and closing above this monthly level here. Why this monthly level here? Well, because this was the highest close before the big sell-off. And then once it flipped that, it started as resistance, but it didn't give it too much resistance. Once it flipped that, it's now been acting as support. Why not the swing level in this particular instance? For monthly candles, the bodies are a lot more important than the wicks, especially like you can even see here. The previous all-time high monthly close, that exact level acted as resistance back in March. So, for daily candles, weekly candles, even weekly candles, sometimes the wicks aren't as important, although I do tend to do my analysis based off the wicks on weekly. But on monthly, you're looking at the closes is the most important thing. So that's why, and you can see how important, as soon as it closed above that level again, we've been above that ever since and hasn't closed below. We've dipped below, but it hasn't closed. So monthly still looks fine. We're testing this now. We've tested the level once, twice, 3 monthlies. We came down pretty close last night, but didn't quite get down there. And as of right now, Solana is one of the bigger gainers on the day. The theme or something you could have been doing if you do trade majors this whole time is anytime there's a massive pullback on majors, you just long Solana out of the gate as opposed to Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's just so much stronger on those intraday moves or daily moves. So monthly is still fine. We keep testing this. Who knows? Does it want to come down in deeper into here? I have no idea. Let me take a look at weekly. Weekly's still been holding that. So this was here, monthly level. Well, here's the weekly swing high, right? And it has, once it closed above that weekly swing high, it's just been testing that. It hasn't closed below. And every time it gets down here, we're getting a reaction. And it's also coming to, there's a weekly demand here, but I don't like to muddy it up too much when I have monthly already. So there's a weekly demand right in this area, which, it's tagged 3 times. Doesn't come down any further yet. Let's take a look at daily. So daily, it gets a little bit muddier. Like this was these boxes I've had drawn since July. These were drawn. Both of these were drawn in July, and look how they've held true. Now, I don't know if that we got a close below it again. Like, yes, we had a close below here, and it was a very fast reaction, but then went right up into supply, sold off, up into that supply again, sold off. Now we've sold off below that demand again. And we're just kind of chopping here. And it came right up into it and is rejecting. So what would I say? Like immediately, if I was looking at this, is two things that I see. I see that we swept this daily low here. So that's a great first sign. Swept the daily level, tagged a monthly level and a weekly level, and it's, you know, back up above. So that's a pretty good reaction. It's running into this overhead supply here. I don't know how, I mean, this is going to be dependent on, does Bitcoin decide to take a deeper drop, or was that the extent of it? Yet to be seen. But as of right now, that's a great reaction. I think if you were like, okay, if I was wanting to long this, I mean, it's a little bit late now, because this could just be an intraday move, and we could, by the time the daily close comes back, we could be just back somewhere down here. We could be higher. We don't know yet. Like, I don't really love going on majors into lower time frames, just because I just find it very noisy for coins of such high market cap, and I'm also not trading them intraday for snipes or anything like that. But what we can see is on the H4, it held that low when it swept it. And what have I said before? You get a sweep, that's a solid indicator. So your long would have been somewhere over here. That's a trigger. But at the, like, I wouldn't be suggesting to try and long from here unless it's just a spot bag. If it gets back above this level on H4, then you'd be looking for, because there's your H4 range, right? H4 range, chop, 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 chop. You either long back down near here, but probably another sweep to go back to the top of the range, or if H4 flips above this, you go H4 close above here, then we'd look for demand to go for a next leg higher. But on majors, you're getting small moves on something like that, right? So like, even with an H4 flip, how much upside is there? You know, it's going to be very dependent on what Bitcoin wants to do. And equities, we're kind of just at the mercy of that right now. And it's just still more of that summer chop that we've been experiencing. And I don't think it's done yet. I think, let's take a look at, I mean, that's a great reaction off Bitcoin, right? Like it came down into that the weekly level. Yeah, it tagged the weekly level that it's been playing around with quite a bit and getting quite a nice reaction there. On daily, oh, well, also let's zoom out onto monthly. So monthly on Bitcoin, it's been into this monthly fair value gap a lot. As you can see, holding this area quite well. A lot of sweeps of that low and hasn't closed below. I think if you start closing below this on monthly, then we're going a lot lower, but we haven't done that at all. So I think we're fine for now. A bunch more GMs, got more people joined. Oh, we got 11 people. Amazing. Good to see you all. Thanks, lads. I recognize a lot of familiar faces. Appreciate you all showing up. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin, this daily reaction looks good so far, but we did close below that level. Like, there's a lot more intricacy on something like an instrument like Bitcoin for like your daily levels and stuff like that. See, because we had to close below this, even though we're still within this bearish range, the larger bearish structure, like there was a trigger to go long, even though it failed once it closed above there, right? But here we had to close below. So does that mean that we're going to be looking for some supply here? Maybe, right? Like you got to close below that level there 2 days ago, and you actually did reject a little bit, but now it came down into this weekly level and had a reaction. So it's about looking at the different time frames, right? But you know, there's a chance that this just acts as more supply in here. Like maybe that was just an intraday bounce and then we come down further. I don't know, but it did sweep a daily low here, and that lower wick on that is a nice looking spring. So let's take a look. When was the last time we had something that looked like that swept a level? And then, well, this was a down swing, but big wick, and then it sort of propelled it back to the other side. Oh, here's one. You know, wicked a level, sprang up. Does this mean that we're going to see something that takes us back to all-time highs? I'm not going to say that because I don't think it is. But anyways, enough of majors for now. We're not here to look at majors. Maybe in the future I'll clear all the majors charts off and we can start fresh, but that's just like a whole show in itself, and it's not really my specialty. And to be honest with you, if you're looking for stuff like that, I would highly recommend checking out Trader Main. His live streams are great. I learned a lot of my technique from him. About 75% of my technique is based around his systems. So I would think that that is a good place to go if you're looking for an analysis on majors. Like here, even on ETH, right? Like we got a beautiful sweep here on daily. If this holds, like, you know, maybe we come back up to here. 2,800 would be great, and then we find out what happens from there. But anyways, let's move on because we're spending too much time looking at majors. Okay, let's get to the list. Pull up the list again. How's everyone doing? Is the volume okay? Can you guys hear me well enough? Okay. I'm assuming you guys can see that. We're good to go. How are we doing? We're about 20 minutes in. Okay, let's try and bang through this. We've got a little over 20 coins. I think we can, you know, get through them all in pretty good timing. So, you know, I like to sort by volume. Let's start with the highest volume on the day, and we'll work our way down. Ethervista. It's a new launch platform that launched on Ethereum a couple days ago and has sort of reinvigorated the Ethereum ecosystem in terms of on-chain activity. I mean, at the moment, we're seeing GUI back around 10. It had been, I mean, and that's still historically low GUI for ETH on-chain, like historically low. But we've had days where it's been like 0.6, 0.5 GUI, especially overnight. It's been getting that low. So you can see how significant of a boost that's been. I mean, most days lately, it's been sitting around 4 GUI in the middle of the day. And now we're up to 10. So it's telling you on-chain activity is picking up a bit for ETH. So let's take a look at Ethervista. This one came in on ChainEdge actually as I saw it on the alpha stream somewhere over here. And when I went to look into it, this is a bit of an F of a story. I went to look into it and I went to the website, and the website sent me on an infinite loop of wanting to connect my wallet, which I don't like doing. When I first load a site, I like to look around and find some things out first. And it sent me on an infinite loop that I, even like quitting the browser, when I reopened, it would still be on an infinite loop. I managed to get that to stop, but I was like, well, this is a scam. Not fucking touching this. Well, you know, that was somewhere around 500-600K. Went to 30 mil. So F from me. But okay, so you guys want me to start with clean charts. So let's do that. I mean, not really much to go off on daily. What we can do is we can mark that high. We can mark this, but I really don't think it ever comes back down there again. H12, oh man, I really wish they would figure out why these don't align, but H12, okay, we can start by marking out that swing level. There is a fair value gap here. And in there, which it held on H4 even. And we're still in that range, so maybe we'll just draw this out as something to work off of. As we're going to define that as our range for now, because really the bottom of the range is down here. And if the Ethervista comes back sub 3 million again, I think it's done. So it's a utility coin. Interesting to see, or good to see that, you know, some ETH utility is back. So there had been an hourly range there that actually broke structure. And I believe I posted this setup in the AFM Telegram group last night, after it had broken structure, there was an hourly sweep down here. And I believe I posted the chart right here. And I was like, well, you just got a sweep here. I think at minimum, it goes back to the top of the range and maybe it flips it, which it did. It went from, like when I posted the chart, it was down here at 11 mil, just over 11 mil. And then it, it flipped the hourly and has gone all the way up. So, 170% move. Congratulations to anyone that took that trade when I posted. It was like, it was happening in real time. I said, the way that it was drawn out was, I said, okay. When it closed below here, it had broken hourly structure right there. But it was still holding the bottom of the range. And what occurred was there was a sweep this low right here, because this was your hourly bearish range. And there was a sweep that took place there. And I posted immediately. I was like, this hourly just swept. I think there's a solid case for going at least back to the top of the range, if not higher, but we'd have to reassess when it gets there. And your invalidation, I said, was if it closes below this, you're invalidated. Well, what happened? Bounced, recaptured that high, flipped that back to bullish, bounced, and went back to all-time high. At the moment, so it's a case of we've come back to the all-time high and we've swept a few times and showing some signs of weakness at the all-time high. I do think if you get anything coming back in around 17 million, I think that's a buy. Let's jump back to H4. I wouldn't really love it if it came all the way back down to this fair value gap, because then it would just look like a double top. Don't love it, but I think if you get something around 17 mil, which may be like, okay, at the moment it hit this hourly demand. It's a big zone though. It's a big demand zone, right? Because the hourly could come all the way down here before you're invalidated. But then it's sort of right near that level that I said 17 mil looks good. So I wouldn't really look at the hourly demand, because even here, you had the hourly break of structure, broke below this demand level, but then immediately swept and then went back to the top. So I don't think we're going to concern ourselves too much on the hourly with that, especially given how much volume this thing has. I mean, 45 mil volume, 24 hours is massive. We haven't seen volume like that on ETH in a long time. So I think, well, let's just, here's the bottom of your hourly range at the moment. This is your hourly range. Done some sweeps in there, but you don't want to be top blasting. The only way that you top blast this is if you get an hourly close above, or even preferably an H4. What do we have? Yeah. H12 would be a long time from now, so I wouldn't really wait for that. But if you get an H4 close above there, then you're flipping to go long, maybe based off of demand here. We'd have to see when that happens. But I think if you get something that comes back down into this area, it's a good buy, good bid area. I mean, we can box out this whole area here, but like I said, if it comes all the way back down, anywhere near 10 million, I would not like this. So I think that area right there between 17, between this key level that I see here, see how important that level's been, right? Like it struggled, broke above, broke below, chopped around it, but like see how important that level's been. Even came up into here, tagged, flipped it, tagged. So I think anything around this swing low on the hourly, so just under 18 mil to the 17, right in there is a good bid for Vista. Here's a good question. Hermit says, based on you seeing that sweep, where would you have entered? The entry trigger was as soon as the sweep happened and that closed above, anywhere as close to the bottom of that range low, which was here. So as soon as it swept, what you'll often see, especially on something like hourly, like you're looking for those 3 candle patterns, right? So like even with a sweep like that, you're going to get some selling into it. So you just be trying to buy as close back to this level as possible, knowing that usually you're going to get some selling before it starts to go back up. But even look at that, like it swept and then tagged it perfectly and then went up. I mean, you could have just bought after that candle closed. You would have had to accept that you might see some drawdown, but you would still know where your invalidation was, right? Like say you bought there and you came all the way down. So you would have had to stomach 15% drawdown before upside, because you really don't know what that candle is going to do yet. But getting as close to that swing level as possible for an entry is ideal, because then your invalidation is super close. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, let's move along, because that took longer than I wanted to. FWOG has been one of the strongest coins for Solana. I mean, even through that selling yesterday, look, it barely dipped, and now we're almost back to all-time highs. Previous stream analysis that I laid out, excuse me, with this fair value gap, and I said probably comes into here. Oh, look at that. Tagged it perfectly. Even got a daily sweep, closed above, and then sent to new highs. So what have we had since? Let's clean this up. Okay, so you had a higher high, the close above. Your demand, now it's a wide demand zone, but here's your demand on daily. And the swing low is here for the bottom of the daily range, and here's the top of your daily range. Also have this important level there. We can also mark out this one now. There's another important swing point, although I think that one's probably more important. Now, what would I do here? Like, how much more upside does this have? We're approaching that 100 mil mark. Longing here, like buying here, doesn't feel like the move, because what if it is just 100 mil and it's done? 20%. I mean, 20% is 20% if you're going to go on the size, sure. But at the moment, it's not what I would be. Like, I look at this and I think, okay, we're closer to the top, room for upside, even though it's been showing a lot of strength. You know, it's a great team. They put out a lot of content. If we pop down to, let's take a look on lower time frames. I mean, this chart in particular, multiple time frames, the things just don't line up at all, which really bugs me, but it's what it is. Let's get rid of this. Let's see what we've got on. Okay. So H4, here's your range for H4. Bottom of the range, top of the range on H4. I think a better long would be if you get something down to the bottom here. Preferably like a sweep trigger to go long. Especially it would be deeper in the daily demand area. Obviously on a daily time frame, the lower you can get into here, the better. I have no idea at this moment in time how low that might go. If it even comes that low, who knows? I mean, this could just keep going. We don't know yet. It's held H4 structure. It tagged H4 demand. When it came into there, H4 structure is intact, showing some signs of rejection at the moment, but nothing of concern. I would just say if you had bought up here, then this is concerning, right? Because you don't know where the party's over. You never want to be aping a top. I mean, there's some people that do that really well. They top blast, and they force a chart higher. But those are guys that are putting like 50, 100K clips in. and can move a chart like that. If that's not the type of bankroll you're working with, then buying here makes absolutely zero sense to me. If you're asking yourself, you're already in this from lower and you're like, okay, what do I do? Am I looking to get out? I mean, your first signal, I mean, even look at that. H12 looks great. So here's your H12 demand right there. You know, like you're getting the reactions you want to see on multi-time frames. Like H12 daily, H4 all still bullish. I don't even know. Okay, so hourly broke bearish. There could have been your trigger. If you were, okay, I know this is a lot of lines going on here right now, and that's just because of the multi-time frames and them not lining up. But if we're looking at this right now, H1 hourly had a bearish trigger. Can you guys, does anyone see what it is that I'm seeing? And why it is that I'm saying that hourly got a bearish trigger? Well, you had an hourly close below here. Right, that was the low that created the high, creating a higher high. Then you broke structure on hourly. When you close below here, you got an underside tag into supply, sorry, you got, yes, an underside tag up into overhead supply in there, rejected. Then you got a further H1 lower low right there. Same thing, tagged up into supply, sold, another H1 lower low there. So, I mean, there were signals. If you were in this from lower and you're like, what are my signals I want to sell? Well, that would have been the first one, although, you know, so close to the all-time high and that's happening. And many people would just be like, oh, this thing's going to moon from here. I can't sell. Well, you know, there have been triggers. Now, it does look as though hourly has since, no, because this was the swing low here. So hourly is still, you're looking at this saying, if this flips back, then I'm bullish. Is it closed above or was it below? Let's take a look. It, by the time, look at how much we have to zoom in. By the tiniest fraction, closed back above there. Okay, so if we're just going to be purely technical here, I mean, that is so close that it's difficult to say who is going to be zooming in on that, thinking, okay, I just flip that hourly back to bullish. But my suspicion would be that you're going to get a higher low here, just based off of that. All right, so what we'd be looking for, here's your hourly range that has regained bullish structure based off of that tiny little movement there. We can get rid of this because this is now behind us. Okay, you're in daily bullish structure, H12 bullish structure, H4 bullish structure. H1 had lost bullish, but it's reflipped back to bullish. So you get a tag into here, you can go long. There's, because, you know, a few minutes ago I was talking about, well, you don't want to be long in the top. Well, if you're basing your trade off an hourly setup and your invalidation is here on your particular trade, like disregard the fact that higher time frames are still bullish. Let's just say you want to take an hourly setup. There's your invalidation down there. So if you get something coming into here, you have a trade. Because say it comes somewhere here, and most you're losing like 5%, right? Now you have to keep in mind though that it could just come down here and then all of a sudden reverse. But on that particular trade, that is where your invalidation would be. Okay, let's move this along. How far are we in? 38 minutes, and we've done 2 charts. Let's move this faster. Okay, Bonzi was the very first meme coin launched on Vista and has had quite a beautiful run. It was ranging for a while. I believe I posted in the AFM Telegram. I was like, well, this is your area to be buying. I was like, I posted, here's your range. And look at that. Beautiful reaction. Posted in the AFM TG channel, in the Voodoo and Squiggles channel of the chat. So what do we see now? Let's get rid of some of this stuff, clean it up. These were just levels that I'd been marking out along the way that seemed important. I believe I had one request from someone asking me to highlight some of those. So let's just clear the whole thing off then. I mean, here, as soon as it flipped, it acted as support. Chop, 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 flipped it, acted as support, although it came down into that demand, which is the demand that I had highlighted. There. At this level, there was your range that had been chopping in. Yes, you got to close above there. But it had been so choppy. And also, if you zoom out even further on H4, it was just a sweep. So what do I see now? I mean, it's been doing classic stair stepping, right? Like, now it's made a higher high there as well, but your actual swing low isn't all the way down here for that range. So this is the range you're, well, actually here, this is your range. This is your hourly range. Yes, you got a higher high there, and there is a bit of demand here, but the true swing low is all the way down here on hourly. We'll flip that. The market structure break higher. So at the moment, anything that comes down into here is a decent bid. Now it's had quite a run, but it has come back and it's retesting the level that was flipped at the previous swing high. Let's see what H4 looked like. Okay. I mean, you don't really want it to come back and close back below that level, because if you start losing that level, it's going to come quite a bit lower. But for now, it's holding it. So I think, yeah, because the trouble with H4 right now is the bottom of your H4 range is all the way down there. Like, there's your H4 range. That's a wide fucking range. Like, that would be, you know, it's a lot. Even from here to come back all the way down here. A 70% move down. I mean, it's not unheard of. Perfectly reasonable that it could, but I don't really think you want to see it just come back down. But if I were to base my analysis just on H4 here, like, okay, there's your H4 demand. Yes, there's an area of demand there that it's seeing some reaction from. But if it wanted to come all the way down into here, I'd be looking for buyers to step in. But right now, I'm more interested in what's happening at this level. We'll leave that marked out, but I think this is what you want to be looking at. On something like this, you could flip down to, okay, so yeah, you had an M15 close below, so maybe it comes deeper into here. All right, you had an M15 close below that level right there. Why is that the level? Because it was the low that created the high, creating a higher high. So as soon as you got a close below there, and even see now, it's come up into that supply, and it's showing a little bit of signs of selling. So maybe you get something down here, closer to 1.6 million would be a great area to buy, because then your invalidation is clear on H1. So I think if you get something down here, it's a good buy. Still got 10 of you rocking with me. Amazing. Thank you again for everyone that's been showing up to these streams. Really appreciate it. Hope that you're finding value out of these. Hope that I'm able to convey things in a clear manner where you're actually able to learn from what it is that I'm doing. And it's not just voodoo and squiggles and the astrology. I mean, obviously all of that was a play on words. I do, based on probabilities, is how I do things with my analysis. I mean, that's all that trading is putting a bet towards a higher probability. So all that terminal, like the Astrology for Men and voodoo and squiggles, that's just a joke, because I do actually believe in what it is that I'm teaching here. Nothing is a guarantee, obviously, and of course, nothing is financial advice. None of what I say is financial advice ever, but you are arming yourself with a setup based off of a probability with an invalidation, potential target, and a trigger. And if you have those things lining up for you, what more could you ask for in trading, right? Okay, Vistadog, another Vista token. Someone might have requested this. So let's remove all this so you guys can see where I start from. Okay, obviously the only real time frame with structure is hourly, H1. I mean, yes, you did have a close below here, and then that's been acting as supply, but you're still in an H4 uptrend. What we did have on hourly, though, was we got a break below here, broke structure, which created this range. Here's your hourly range. Where's the bottom? There it is, right there. So that's the hourly range that we're trading in. Look at that. It's come, it did the bottom, it swept the bottom, did that, went back to the top of the range. Top of the range sold off, top of the range sold off. We're currently dead in the middle of the range, which is, you know, I've said before, you don't want to diddle in the middle. I wouldn't be buying here. You either, at this point in time, get an hourly close above here, flip the structure back to bullish, then you look for your demand to go long. Or if it comes back down here and does another sweep, well, clearly it's trading in a range, and it's a range until proven otherwise. So if it comes back down here and you get another sweep, buy that to go long. And, you know, hopefully if it does do that range move one more time, that it eventually will break that one. And let's see, if you're buying the bottom of the range on that sweep, so you saw that and you came in for the second candle, look at that, 340% move. Beautiful move. So if it does that again, I would buy that. Or if it flips this with an hourly close above, you look to long, or you look to buy on the demand retest. We don't know where that is yet. Depends on what happens next. Like say this goes up here and closes above here. Well, then based off of that, at this moment in time, this would be your demand right here. But we don't know that yet. We don't know what the upcoming price action is going to look like. You can throw a fib, but you know, it came all the way down, probably to red dead even. Oh, look at that. Came down to red dead and it hugged it for a while. So that could have been some level of confluence for you if you're using my fib levels, which you can find in the AFM TG group in the resources channel, which, yes, guys, I know I need to start putting more things in there. I want to post some blogs from some good traders and some good videos and resources. But at the moment, you know, if you're looking for my fib levels, that's where they are. But I don't think those are overly helpful right now. Like you have this range. So two scenarios: sweep, close above, go long. Close above, demand retest. Buy that. Those are your two scenarios. And then from there, I would say the next sort of target would be up here, so around 2 million, and then back to all-time high potentially. We can even put these levels here. Like, let's just mark out the levels that I like to mark out, so we have, you know, a gauge for where we're going. And you can see how this level's, you know, been important here too, interacting with it, and it's pretty much dead in the middle between those two. Like if I were to fib this down here, what do we have? Yeah, it's dead in the middle. It's covered by that right now. Right? Look, if I move that. Yeah, it's dead in the middle. We're trading right in the middle of the range right now. So either down here or up here. Moving on. Mope. I think this one had a CTO. Yeah, it even says here, Mope CTO. Don't know much about it. It launched with a lot of heavy buys yesterday. I'm not sure if it was a pre-sale or what. You know, some people look at that and go, fill the wick? Maybe. Let's just put that there just for fun. Where are we at right now? I mean, it's not even like that's high of a market cap. The on-chain markets is just tough right now. Like sustaining coins above 1 million is not that easy. Actually, I had a question from someone in the AFM TG asking, like, risk reward wise, what are better coins to look at? Well, look at the ones that have been strong and then try to buy those on as deep of a pullback as possible. Or if you get a coin that has been low, like down, sold off a lot, sold off aggressively, and then you start getting like a daily higher high, you know, pay attention to that perhaps. But you have to also keep in mind, like, what are the communities like? And was that just like an insider quick pump and dump exit scam, and then it just sells off immediately? Like, a couple of things you have to look for. But I mean, with something like FWOG, that one was flagged maybe 2 live streams ago when it was trading down to the bottom of the range, 2 or 3 streams ago. And I had said this is probably a really good bet for going, like a good coin to be buying. And it went on to have quite an epic run. Now, that was based off of just analyzing the chart and seeing that it had been holding structure and slowly creeping up. If you go back and watch a couple episodes ago, that's in there. So, I mean, coins that have sold a lot but didn't lose structure and are holding their demand, probably a lot better risk reward than something that keeps losing structure, right, and printing lower lows. I say probably. That's a joke. It's 100% a better bet than buying something in lower lows. We're not about knife catching here on Astrology for Men. You guys know that by now, that I'm never going to tell you to try and knife catch. But in terms of better risk reward in coins and token selection, there's a couple things you can do. You look for, has it been the strongest, one of the stronger coins? Well, then wait for those to have a pullback, because they always do. There's always a higher low somewhere. It just depends on where. And you bid those. Or you incorporate something like the attention dashboard from ChainEdge, and you look to find entries on those. And those are often the coins that have been the strongest. Like if I'm looking right now on the attention dash, can you guys see that? Oh, perfect. Okay. Oh, learning new tricks. It looks as though it's easy for me to just switch a tab to share. So if we're looking at it right now, I mean, FWOG, obviously. MUMU's on there. Like, I think most of these are on the list today, except for Michi, which Michi's a curse coin. It's good to see that Billy is finally no longer popping up there. On the ETH side, obviously Vista. You know, you take a look, like, I wouldn't buy Rollbit. I don't know why that's up there. I'm not sure what PNDC is, but, like, you know, you take a look at these things. That's a good way to figure out your better risk reward on the stronger ones. Okay, let's come back over here. Sorry, that was just a detour for a moment because someone had asked. Okay, Power Naps has asked, how do you approach risk management on Vista stuff since no terminal stop loss set? Well, you just have to be monitoring it, right? The beauty about ETH coins is, though, I've mentioned before, there's the traders on ETH are different than the traders on Solana. They're usually guys that have been trading now, maybe like this is their second, third cycle. They've traded in both bearish conditions and bullish conditions. They know how to read a chart a lot more often than not. Now, you have shitty traders in any environment, and guys that don't understand how to read a chart, of course, but levels do tend to be respected a lot better on ETH coins than elsewhere. So if you're getting a good entry and you start to get a reaction from there, you have less of a concern that you're going to lose that level unless some sort of, well, the things you have to be concerned about, was there some sort of exploit? Is there a mass amount of FUD that occurs? Did the dev like rug? Or there's so many other components, but purely from a trading perspective, removing any of those out of the equation. I'm not telling you to remove those out of the equation because those are very real threats on chain, but from a strictly chart perspective, you have a level of confidence that your trade is going to hold if there's attention and focus there. And now Vista has had pretty much all the attention on ETH. It's a utility play. Utilities are starting to heat up again. It's been a very bullish chart. So, you would, if you put your trade on, like say yesterday you bought that hourly sweep, well, you'd have to monitor it for a while. You don't just put that on and then fuck off for a couple of days because you don't know. But as soon as it got the hourly higher high, your confidence in your entry goes up a lot. You have breathing room. That's why execution is so important, right? Because if you're buying into the top of something, even if you have you have reason to think that it's going to continue to go upside, buying near the top of anything, you could have to withstand a large amount of drawdown before regaining momentum to the upside. So, or before invalidation. So it's all about your entry. Excuse me. Okay, getting back to Mope. What do I see here? I mean, there's not much to go off on this yet, right? By the way, finally, on Dextrain, if you change the volume bars, it saves it as a setting. Before, it used to just always default back to the red and green, which looks horrible. And you guys know that I don't typically look at volume. Mostly use it as a gauge for attention on a token. But I've met some new guys recently that have been opening my eyes to some uses of volume. I'm not going to get into that yet because I'm still experimenting with it personally. But over time, as I've tested a little bit further with it, I'll start to teach you guys about that stuff. But for my primary analysis, volume is not necessary. I mean, that was a nice spike there. I think if you're looking at this right now, you're saying, okay, I want this to hold. Even though you're not like, okay, I think you just disregard this wick. It's a nice romantic thought to be like, oh, fill the wick, but it does nothing for us as a chart. So I think we just disregard that. And we say, okay. Higher high. Here's my range on hourly. There's your demand. Be looking for anything in there for a higher low. Like we can go down the lower time frame. Yeah, even at M15 hasn't lost anything. The M15 bottom of the range is even all the way down here. So yes, we have a fair value gap in here, but I'm going to say if you get something down to here, you buy in here with a look to reclaim that with a higher high and then maybe back up to there. Don't know. We'll see. MUMU the bull. Okay. I mean, it's just been chopping quite a bit. Pretty sure we analyzed this. Oh, look at that old setup. You guys want to know how to quickly change that? Well, you come up here to your volume, click the little settings wheel, go to style. Falling is the down, growing is the up. There you go. It will save on, like if you do it on a new chart, it will save it as a setting moving forward. But on any chart you've looked at before, it's going to have the settings that were on for that chart in the past, just so you know. Okay, so MUMU still in daily demand. It's been doing this sort of like, sort of coiling. I believe I said anything down here if you can buy down near the bottom of the range. Like, when was the last stream? On Friday? So 5 days ago. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we were somewhere here. And I said, you don't want to be buying here, but if you get back to the bottom of the range, you look for it to go back to the top of the range. Well, it came back to the bottom, swept. So there is a thesis there, especially since we're in bullish structure on the daily, that you want to see it come to back, at least back here. And then if it flips that on daily, then we're going higher. You could take this trade right now because your invalidation is, it's 10, 11%. It's not the greatest, but it's not horrible, especially for on-chain. Top of the range is like 70%. So there is a thesis and a trade. And as we just saw on the attention dashboard over here, oh, nope, messed up. Sorry about that. Oh, I almost had it. We're learning here. We're learning here. Here we go. But, okay, let me remove this. As we saw over here on the attention dashboard, MUMU is pretty up there. Gained on the 1 day and 7 day, down on 30 days, but gained on 1 day quite a bit, actually. It's jumped up quite a bit. Let's take a look here. I mean, it's had a lot of spikes. Let's take a look. So what day was this? When was this? July 25th. Let's take a look at the July 25th price. Let's take a look here. That switched for me? Oh, yeah. Okay. July 25th was, well, wouldn't you know? People ask, how do we use the attention dashboard? Well, you get a massive spike like that on attention. Most times we've noticed that that has been a local top. Couldn't be a better example of that because this is the 25th there and that. So let's come back over here. Let's take a look at what's been going on. So we had another spike here, which also correlated with the chart. So here we're starting, but now we're near the lows and it's starting to creep up. So maybe this is a buy right now. Okay, you're close enough to invalidation. You're close enough to invalidation. Attention's creeping up. It's a massive gainer. Daily bullish structure. I'd be looking for this to come back up here. And then if it flips that on daily, to keep going. Okay. Smoking chicken fish. Okay, so this was one that I've been charting for a while with you guys. I'm pretty sure in the chat, when this setup unfolded, I had originally had it analyzed with a different area, but then it, okay. Zoom in. There was a breaker that flipped when it closed above that I had boxed out, but it closed below. So then I was like, okay, well, it's actually probably just going to come into demand. There's layers. When you're analyzing something, there are sort of 3 different types of demand that you could be looking for. You could be looking for what many would call an order block type of demand, which is the low that created the high, creating a higher high. For me, I usually like a cluster, which is why I don't use traditional order blocks, more of a demand zone that I'm looking at. But you have your OB demands, you have breakers, which is an area that should have acted or could have acted as resistance because it was a high that created a lower low, which built in supply. Once it flips that supply, it becomes a breaker, meaning it broke structure through it, and oftentimes will become where you're finding demand to occur. In this case, it didn't happen. And then the third type is fair value gaps, which we're not dealing with here. So now, smoking chicken fish printed an H4 higher high. Here's the bottom of your range on H4. Here's the top of your range on H4. Came in, bounced, struggling a little bit here. but still within the H4 range. So H4 is bullish. If you get another tag into here, you buy that because your invalidation is so close. It's also came into a larger H4 demand, but I believe that was a daily breaker. So yeah, see how I was talking about breakers? It was supply when it closed below. It flipped it bullish and flipped it into demand. So it became a breaker. But yeah, right now I'd be watching what happens here. If you didn't buy the Pico low on that, you even got a sweep on H4. Really a lot of bullish things occurred there. And we're seeing some selling now. So if you get something back down near here, worth the trade because probability is still to the upside. The only thing about smoking chicken fish is I feel, oh, here, let's get a little demonstration here. Is that attention is dropping. Look, 30 days, it's down almost 1,000 points. 7-day, 270 points almost. 1 day down 1 point. Let's take a look at the SCF. Yeah, I mean, interest is tapering, attention is tapering. So that would be the only reason why I'm not as bullish on this here. But it's still, there's a trade right there. Still, there's a trade here. So there you go. Move along. Snoofi. Another bullish one. One of the stronger coins. So you were asking about picking risk reward, which coins you focus on. Coins that have been the strongest. Excuse me. When I talk so much, I start to cough a little bit. Apologies. So snoofi has been one of the stronger ones. Let's clean this up so you guys can get a top-down approach. Previous all-time high. Let's mark out the things I see. There's a range high on daily. Here's a range low on daily. Why is that the range low and not down here? Well, there's the swing low that created the high. Trouble is there isn't a demand in there. So we probably have to go to lower time frames. Let's take a look. Okay. Another thing I see here is that now it's flipped that level. It's an H12 level. It flipped it, seeing some support. And we have this H12 demand right here. Here's your H12 range. H12 range. Now, one thing we do need to be aware of is we've come up into the previous all-time high and have had a little bit. See, now the daily candle doesn't even get up there. Things like this do frustrate me because is that just MEV? Did that occur? Given that it's on the H12 and H4, and let's be perfectly honest, a lot of people aren't looking at daily. They just don't have that sort of view of the market. But since that occurred, the price action did trade there on H12 and daily. We're just going to take that as the range. Any dip into here is a good buy. Obviously, the lower you can get, the better. Like, let's take a look. Let's throw a fib on this. Yeah, if you can get that, the 768 on that H12 range. Like, okay, let's take this a step further. Let's take a look at the daily range here. Look at that. On daily, this would have been over here when that occurred. So it's only come down 50% of the range. An ideal long is the bottom third of a range is where you want to be getting along because your risk reward is better. 50% is an acceptable pullback, but what do we say? Middle of the range, don't want to deal in the middle. It could go either way. In this case, it went up, could have just as easily come down. But at the moment, I do see that this has been holding. Even here, your H4 bottom of your range is here. So I think into this H12 demand, if you get a sweep down here on H4 and you close above, there's your trigger. Or if you come all the way down here, there's another trigger. Like it could come here, close below, well then don't buy that, wait for it to come down to the bottom. If you get this, it's just a sweep, go long. The other way to go long would be if this closes above here, then we're looking for a demand retest or a continuation. But if it starts to accelerate, you would then pop down onto like M15 and see what's going on. I mean, this didn't even really give you M15 entries on that leg there, right? It really didn't. I think your earliest entry would have been that, which would have been tough. So let's take a look. Okay. So there. You know, I don't love, and I've said before many times, the higher the time frame the chart has market structure, the less I like to look at lower time frames like M5, M15, because it becomes a lot of noise. But if something's starting to accelerate really quickly and you're like, holy fuck, how do I get on board this trade? It's going to take off without me. And you missed this chop, say you went through all that, you missed it, and then it starts to accelerate. Well, then you pop down to lower time frame. And you started getting some lower lows on M5. As soon as it closed back above there, you're like, okay, I'm looking for a demand. And there it was right there. Boom. And then it gave you still a good chunk of that move, right? So, you know, people, only 50, not even 50%. So nothing to write home about, but still a great trade that you could have put size on because the liquidity is decent. But if people ask like, okay, this is moving really quickly. I don't want to just be top aping. What would I look for to say, okay, I have a trade here? Well, you do your fractals. The same thing, the same analysis you do on higher time frame. You just do it on a lower time frame. You just bring it down into a fractal and do the same analysis. You're looking for a higher high to be in bullish structure or a lower low, creating the bearish structure, and then you wait for that structure to flip. But you do have to keep in mind the bigger picture. So if you're doing an M5 analysis, but you're in a daily range, well, you could lose the M5 level only for it to sell off a little bit and then recapture it, and then the trade unfolds. So there are little things like that that you have to be aware of. You just have to be nimble. You have to be quick. Wow, I'm giving off fucking nursery rhymes up in here. Rap, be nimble. Rap, be quick. Rap, be analyzing them candlesticks. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Sorry for everyone that just experienced that. Let's do a quick look over here at snoofi. Snoofi. So it's lost some mind share. Let's take a look at the print. But it could be bottoming here. Well, this is a game changer now. I can just quickly switch these. So we see, okay, what day was this? Where's the date on this? August. So it was August 18th. Where was the 18th over here? Huh. So that big pop was all the way over here. And this whole move up here hasn't really gained much in attention. That is really interesting. I don't know if that's a function of this being mostly a community on Reddit, and we don't monitor Reddit for the attention dashboard. Could be something we look to incorporate in the future, because obviously that this would probably have been a lot stronger signal, because if we come back over here, look at that. That entire run-up was during all of this. So obviously that conversation was happening on Reddit, and we didn't have the attention metrics to support that move. But this would have just been based off of a chart. I mean, if we're on H4, H4, like look at here were your triggers on H4. Higher high, demand, boom. Higher high, demand, boom. Higher high, demand, boom. Like there's been a lot of trades here and on a bullish coin. So again, circling back, I believe it was Power Naps you asked in the AFM Telegram group, like risk reward, how are you finding things? Well, something that is starting to print higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, trying to get in on one of those before you peak is a good move. Then your risk reward is good. Like I said, there's two things. You play the ones that are strong, or you look for something that is put in a reversal on higher time frame off the bottom. This being the latter. Okay, so where did we get to on snoofi? What would we be looking for? So I think, remember, this is H12 demand that we have drawn here, H12 range, bottom of the H4 range here. I think if you get something that comes back down towards this H4 level here as a sweep, is a good trigger down here, or a flip of the high. Right here is, you're just kind of waiting it out to find out what happens. If you're in this trade already from lower and you're like, am I looking to get out? Okay, well, let's take a look. So H1 is a bit hard because really your invalidation is the same as the H4 level. And you don't want to give all that back, right? Like, so you peaked, you don't want to give 30% back. But H1 is like, you had this mini trend, even though you were still on an H1 bullish structure, a mini trend of higher low, nope, lower high, lower low, lower high, right? Like you see how that reversed, because at one point you'd be thinking, oh, is this the higher low? Well, no, we didn't capture a new high. So this was just higher low, lower high, lower low, lower, right? Even though you're still, this was a tough one to sort of trade based off of, but you've also recaptured H1 there. So maybe that was the low and we don't go any lower. And you could be taking trades on a short time frame based off of that. Like right now, you could be saying, okay, I'm looking for an H1 demand. I'm only looking for like a 10% move. I'm going to go on with size right here. And there's your trade, right? Like if you try and get somewhere a little bit closer down here, get a 20% move on size, take that any day, right? But on the higher time frame, which I like to align more with, well, something down here, and especially down here, is good risk reward. Moving along. What do we have next? wDOG. Hour and 17, and we're only halfway through. We're going to have to start picking this up. Is everyone still with me? We still have 10 people. That's amazing. Thank you again for everyone that's here enjoying the stream with me, taking the journey. Okay, Power Naps had one more question here. So you said, too bad chain edge attention doesn't account for Reddit specifically for snoofi. Yes, but if that's going to become a trend, we can look to incorporate. I don't know what all the backend is required for Reddit. I do know that a little while ago, they've restructured some of their group, like server structure and stuff like that, and a bunch of servers closed because it was too expensive. So I just don't even know how much they would charge for the API. Kima says +1 about the Reddit stuff. We'll work on that. If it's possible, we'll pull it off. On-Chain Wizard and the devs over at Chain Edge pull off miracles. So if it's going to become a important source of alpha, and I mean, back in the day, Reddit was where it was happening. Like before crypto Twitter, it was all on Reddit. Like all the Ethereum Reddit boards and the Bitcoin, like crypto, that's where it existed back in the day. It hasn't been so for the last, I think last cycle is when it flipped. Okay, how would you determine reward, since the strong ones are usually in price discovery, so nothing left to reference. This cycle has been really interesting for price discovery because something hits an all-time high, usually, the first day or two, and then it dies off. And if it makes an attempt to go back to the all-time high, it usually just kind of gets there and then trickles back down. So price discovery in the past has been a big thing. This cycle, not so much. And we can even see on larger caps, like what happened with Arbitrum as soon as it hit all-time high. Well, it just came back down and sold, and it's like trading at the lowest price it's ever been trading at. So price discovery hasn't been a great way to base trades off of anymore. I think, so let's say, like, I guess maybe in this instance you're talking about FWOG, because we had discussion about FWOG a few weeks ago. And I believe when it hit the top of the range, you exited, which is something that I'd said you could be looking for. Well, you determine the risk reward by trying to get as close to a demand as possible and being really strict. Sorry, as close to invalidation as possible and being really strict about where you're going to cut and not hesitating. Especially for a larger cap higher up, you're probably going to be going in with more size than you would have been much lower down. So you just have to be more strict. And wait for those high time frame pullbacks, because regardless of how strong a chart looks and has been behaving, and as much as everyone wants to believe, oh, it's just going to go to the moon and never come back down, there's always a higher low somewhere. There's always a higher low somewhere. So you have to wait for those moments. Okay, back to wDOG. So analysis from a few streams ago, I'd said if it closes above this, even though it's in bearish structure, if it closes above that, I suspect it'll reject here, but then you want to be looking in here for a higher low because it feels bullish. And look at that. It's held that demand. It's swept it, but never closed below. It's taking a while to unfold this trade. I'm not going to lie. It's been taking a long time to unfold. You can see over here also, it's been on the attention dash for a while. Starting to regain on the 1 day. It's up a bit, down over 30 days, over 7 days though. But it's coming up a bit. It's held this level of attention. Meanwhile, price has been doing this, holding this low, almost mirroring it perfectly. Like they really nailed the attention dashboard in terms of what it's looking at on Chain Wizard. I remember when he first started talking about it, we were brainstorming about ideas for it. And then just to see the plan come to fruition based off of the different metrics we were inputting into it to see how it would work out. Quite alarming at how reflexive it is to what's occurring. So yeah, it's still holding this demand. It's just one you got to kind of wait out. It's taking its long ass time though. But the longer something sits in ranges like that, provided it doesn't lose this level and then come back down to the bottom of this range, in which case I don't know if there's a future for this one. But the longer it holds here, I would suspect that the expansion is going to occur at some point, and then you at least get up to here, maybe back up to all-time highs. Nothing has changed on this one though. It's just been a tough hold for anyone, right? Like 4 days since it came down is a long time in crypto. Has there been any? I mean, it was like a perfect sweep at the bottom to the top, right? Look at that. Swept the bottom, went to the top of the range. So that was a trade right there. But you're just still doing this range, right? June, 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 June. Does it go here or does it come back down here? We don't know yet. If you're in the trade, I'd hold. If you're not in the trade looking to get in, you want to buy as close to down here as possible. Or with an H4, flip over that level. Look to get in. Okay. Kerosene. ETH utility. ETH utility has been doing this. ETH utility has been doing a whole lot better recently. The sector's definitely woken up, getting runners, and they're actually some of the better performing coins on Ethereum and coins that you can put some money in and sit for a week or two, and the next thing you know, you're up 10x. Not a bad environment to be in if you don't want to be babysitting your trades. Okay, so I'm not sure. I know we analyzed this last time, but I'm not sure if I had this drawn out because I have been monitoring this one a bit. I think maybe we did. Yeah, when did we? Friday. Yeah, so we did. We were in here somewhere, and we were like, okay, we don't know where this is going to end, where the range is going to form. Now, one thing about this, the bottom of the daily range is all the way down here, which is far. So we don't really want to see it come down all the way down to there and give up all those gains. I think if it retags the breakout level at 9.57, yeah, if it retags that, it's a bid. If it manages to close back up in here, I think that's an H12 demand. Okay, so let's make this proper. Here's your H12 demand. You already had an H12 close below though, so that invalidates that trade. I think your next move is down here because H12 you broke structure, right? Close below, came up into supply, selling a bit. Now it's holding here, so we don't know yet what's going to happen. Here's the top of your H12 range here. Is that going to be the bottom? We don't know yet. We'll see what this candle looks like as a close. If this holds here and doesn't make a lower low, then this will be the swing low, but in bearish structure. So I would be looking for an H12 higher low somewhere. And if a range does form here, we could look to play a sweep of the range, go back to the range high. We just don't know yet. It's too early to say. But H12 is broken bearish. Like, that's notable, right? Like, it starts one time frame at a time, right? Like, obviously, if we go down to H1, it broke structure a while ago, right? Like there. Close below into an area of supply. This is a tough one because it's such a wide zone, but broke structure, broke structure, broke structure, broke, right? Like H4, broke structure. Okay, so H4 would have been a good one to be monitoring because there it closed below, tag supply, sold off. And now we've been doing lower lows on every time frame up to H12. Daily is still bullish, but let's take a look on M15, what's happening here. Trouble with a coin like this, utility on ETH, M15 is a really shitty time frame to be looking at because you're going to get a lot of chop, right? Because right there, you're like, oh, it closed above. Well, I had a trade, but who's buying an ETH coin with tax for less than 20%? It doesn't make much sense unless you're playing like, 5, 10K clips because you're going to lose. Oh, this is a no tax coin. Okay. Usually utility, you get taxes, but that's a no tax coin. That's interesting to know. Makes those short time frame trades a little bit more palatable. Look, you did an M15 lower low here though, so maybe it's going to come down further. But again, daily is still bullish. I think if daily comes and tags this is a good area to be looking to bid. When it gets down there, you just switch down to like H1, see what's happening. Once you get a trend flip, go long. Or possibly even M15, as you just saw, like there are trades to be had given it's no tax. But keep in mind that time frames are starting to creep up in which structure is bearish. But again, daily bullish. If it comes down into this area, which it did tag, there was an H12 demand there that it tagged and bounced, but we're still into the overhead supply now. So I think the closer to that previous all-time high level you can get is probably a better buy than that one. Excuse me. Okay, moving along. How we doing? 1 hour and 28. Oh, I see someone asked about Fibonacci levels. Is there something specific or particular that you want to know about fibs? Like the way that I use fibs, I use them more for memes than on utility plays. But I use fibs as a secondary analysis to add confluence around levels that I'm already interested in. Like I'll do my primary analysis, which is market structure, bullish or bearish. Where's your range? Swing low, swing high. Where's your demand? Where's your supply? Like those are the top-down things that I look for. And then what I'll do is I'll throw fibs up and see if what I'm already looking at aligns with that. And then it just adds confluence to say, okay, I've given this analysis off of 2 mindsets. The probability that this goes up or that this analysis unfolds goes up tremendously because you have overlapping analysis styles there, which means that multiple people are looking at this chart arriving at a similar conclusion, because that's all that TA is, right? Like there's no magic to it. There's no real reason why one level should work more than another, other than the psychological aspect and the meme of it being, okay, we're all looking at this level, so I think this is going to work out. That's really what TA is, which is why you want to be putting the probability that people are looking at that level into the mix. So yeah, if you, Stanislav, if you want to add further comment about what it is you want to know about fibs, I'll circle back to that. Okay, whiff. I don't know if there was a request for whiff, but I did analyze this last time. Let's take a look. Oh, look at that. So I had said you got a daily close above here. Here's your demand. I'd be looking for it to bounce in there. And look at that. It's come right down into there. Now, whiff, a lot more correlated with majors given the larger market cap, and I'm pretty sure it's listed. So, but it didn't have too horrible sell-off during yesterday's sell-off. And it's still sitting around here in this demand. So, I mean, that's pretty bullish. I think whiff probably, maybe he wants to go back up to here. I mean, at the very least up to here, but we'll see. What would that be from here? 50% move back up to there. Deep liquidity. Interesting. Okay. Giga Chad. So Giga Chad had been very bullish. It's still in daily bullish structure, but it's doing that sort of slow bleed thing down. My initial analysis from like 3 videos ago, or maybe even 4, I said, okay, it's broken this important structural level. I would look for that to hold, which it had. But now we're getting closes back below, which I don't love. Weekly, it's in weekly demand. I mean, okay, let's just clear this all up because you guys like it when I do that. So, okay, there's an important level. There's an important level. Here was an important level. Below that, if it comes back down, I'm going to bother. But right now, there's your weekly demand. It's a massive zone, though, so like not very helpful. Why did that disappear? There we go. Still in daily bullish structure. Here's your daily range. Into weekly demand. I mean, these are, we've talked about. You want layers of probability. And weekly demand on a daily bullish range into daily demand, you're looking for this to be a bottom here somewhere for the next leg up. Whether that be up to here, 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 we don't know. But you're looking for it to go. Now, initially I had one of these levels marked out as a swing lows. Like if it just sweeps, there's your trigger. Well, it's closed below. So, okay. There's an important level. There's an important level. what we're doing here, we got another close below there. So let's say this ends up being a low. If you get a sweep in daily of that, then there's your trigger. At the moment, you got to kind of just let this unfold. Take a look at H4. So H4 is in bearish structure, but we can be counter trend to the bigger uptrend. Perfectly acceptable. We've talked about that. This one's been a bit tough because you had an H4 trigger that flipped H4 back to bullish after being in a downtrend, but then it sold through. So your H4 range right now is this. So if you get a sweep of this level on H4 or above, I wouldn't look at hourly because hourly just, it's not a good enough signal on this particular chart because there's too much history. That hourly could sweep and then the next candle closes below. So let's see if there's an example of an hourly sweep and then a close below. Okay, there, see? Swept, close below, right? So like you don't want to be basing a trade off that. I would stick to H4 and above. If you get an H4 sweep down here, that's your trigger to go long, at least back to the top of the range. If it can flip that and close above there, then you're looking for it to continue. But again, weekly bullish structure, weekly demand, daily bullish range, daily demand. You're just looking for the bottom. Now you could start DCAing in here if you have a long time horizon on this and like a few percent doesn't mean anything to you. Then you could be DCAing. Or you just wait for the H4 trend to be on your side. Acknowledging the fact that it can sometimes give false signal like it did right there. Sweep that, there's your trigger. Close below that, just wait for the bottom of the daily range, and then that's a really good signal. Your risk reward is super close. But if you start getting an H4 close below there, even though it's a daily level, you might start to think, okay, maybe this level isn't going to hold. But we'll get there when we get there. For now, everything points to still bullish on GIGA. Just resolving all of this stuff. I mean, look, from end of June to mid-August, it went on an absolute ripper. I mean, almost 25x. So you have to imagine there's a lot of people that are just figuring out what they want to do. Okay, moving along. Still got 10 of you with me. That's amazing. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you all. Okay, Barry. Another ETH utility, been bullish. Let's clear it off so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Mark out some of the key levels. There was this, but it never came down back to that. This, which it's retested here. Those are the main swing points that I see of importance. No, it's not the tool I wanted. Your current demand zone is this on daily. Daily swing high. Daily swing low. There's the bottom of your range. This was the market structure shift right there. Okay. So we've had a daily sweep of the swing high, the range high, once, possibly twice. If this closes as a sweep, I'd be looking for something back down here or down into here. We'd have to see what lower time frames are doing. Now, that being said, H4, you got to close above there. So maybe the H4 move would be a sweep somewhere into here. Maybe that's what you're looking for on H4, is something around here. There's also a swing low there on H4. Just a couple things you'd be looking out for. Maybe it just drops down, tags demand, closes up as a sweep of that level. Well, then there's your trigger, right? I believe this is also a utility coin with no tax, which I gotta say, bravo to these teams doing utility with no tax, because fuck taxes, man. I don't want to be taxed by government. I don't want to be fucking taxed by teams. Just bundle part of the supply and tell me you've done that. And be strategic and have a roadmap of where you will be selling some tokens or what you're going to be using them for. I'm perfectly fine with that. But just taxing people who are supporting your project, kind of shitty. Even though 5 and 5 LARP tax season can be very lucrative in the right conditions. And we're starting to see some signs of that. So, okay, that's what I would look for on Barry. If you get a sweep of that with a tag into that demand, that's a pretty good signal. You can even just be bidding this because, you know, even though your invalidation on H4 is all the way down in there, I mean, technically, actually, your invalidation on H4 is that level there because that was the low. Right? Because this is the candle that finally closed above that swing level. So this is the invalidation point. But I think something sweep, tag, trigger. Right? I mean, you even had a trigger right there. You had an H1 sweep of that level. Similar to on Vista. There was an H1 low. Then, okay, it's going to go back to the top of the range. It didn't quite get there, but there was a trade. As soon as it... Okay, here's a good thing to highlight out. Because on Vista, someone had asked, well, how would you have entered that trade? And I said, well, usually the following candle will also poke down into there. But you had a sweep the next candle, and it closed up here. The next candle also swept. So really what you want to be trying to do is, given that usually there will be some selling before it finds ultimate buyers to go up, try and bid as close to that swing level as possible. Now, you would have been underwater for a little while. Like, let's say you managed to just say you put a limit right on that line. How long? I mean, 4.5%. It's not the end of the world. You're not going to be sweating buckets there. And it was a pretty quick reaction, right? Like, managed to close up. But that's something that's a way to enter on something like that. But for now, on this particular trade, given that daily has done this sweep, what do I say? Counter trend. Sweeps are usually pretty good signal that it's going to trade back down. No, I'm not saying it's going to trade back all the way to the bottom of the daily range. No idea. We'll deal with that when we get there. First steps would be looking for this on H4. Okay. Selfie. Okay. So I don't know if we did this last stream, but 2 streams ago, we had we had a bullish flip when it closed above here. This supply turned into a breaker. Now it kind of broke the breaker a little bit. Did it or no? Let's take a closer look. Oh, look at that. It held the bottom of the breaker. And I said, you were looking in here for a higher low to form somewhere. Now, it hasn't had a crazy reaction. And this may now, because it's seeing some resistance up there, actually come back down into the demand. So let's just redraw this now based off of price action that's unfolded since that analysis. And I mean, it even came in and tagged the demand, but it was holding that breaker. I also believe I said that I do still think, even with this, that there's still a chance that it comes back down to this bottom of the range. And to me, the most attractive trade would be down here. Why is that the range? Well, you can see as soon as it closed below that level, it came up and tagged it, sold off. As soon as it closed above that level, it sent, right? And why is this the top of the range? Well, that was just overzealous people. And then as soon as it flipped back under it, swept, sold off. So if you're in from this demand zone, there is a trade here. You're still just holding the wait to see if it unfolds. Still has decent volume, 1 mil 24-hour vol. Let's just draw this out so you can see what your daily range at the moment is. There's your daily range. Anything into this demand is a punt to try and go back to the top of the range. Lose that, then it's here. But I mean, I do think it's coming down at some point. And what I would love to see, actually, for a reason to go long on that, would be for it to close below here, chill for a bit, and then recapture that. And then that would be my trigger. Okay, moving along. Brainlet, how are we doing on time? 1:45. Got 15 minutes to get through these last charts. Let's do it. I'm not on a particular time crunch, but I don't want to have these streams being longer than 2 hours. That's just kind of rude. Okay, Brainlet. Look at that. It's come down into the demand that I had drawn. It's even giving you a sweep here of this level. Twice, once, twice. So it's looking pretty good. Like this wants to go at least back up to here. It's going to get rid of this now. I don't think it's relevant anymore because it did its thing underside and then sold from it. So it's done its job. I think looking at this, obviously the deeper into this you can go, the better. Like I would have loved a sweep of that because that's actually the bottom of the daily range. Even though this is your daily demand, that's the bottom of your daily range. I would have loved to sweep into that. And then that's your trigger, but you're getting sweeps here. You've had 1, 2. I wonder what time frame that is based off of. H4. Yeah. Let's see. Close below, underside, sold. But this looks fine. If you're looking for a place to buy, like if you didn't get in somewhere down here, you're still pretty early to the move. Only 20%. But I think if you haven't gotten in now, what I would do is wait for the H4 to flip this. Because what's the difference here? Okay. It's 16%, 17%. But buying right now, there's a probability that this just comes back down here, which would be a much more attractive buy than here. Or if this flips and closes above, you're looking to buy a higher low somewhere in here, which you're going to get a price similar to that. Just not going to be as good, but it's going to be similar to that where you're buying with trend. Coby. Okay. So I had highlighted this daily fair value gap as a place of interest. And it came down and it had an initial reaction and went up, but then it came down further into it. Now, if we look at this, it looks as though it's actually held the fair value gap. But in doing so, it's actually just tagged demand. But on a daily time frame, it's held that. Even though it's wick below, it's held. H12, it closed below. And H4 it closed below. Now, the initial trigger was off H4. I posted the setup. I said, okay, tagged the fair value gap on daily, got an H4 higher high. When it closed above there, I was like, okay, in here, you're looking for a higher low. That ended up failing, which is why as soon as you get a close below, you cut and you saved yourself a lot more downside. And your invalidation was super close. But at the moment, so dailies come down into there. What do we have now? We got an H4 higher high again. It's come into this demand and tagged and is giving you a reaction. Now it's right at the top of the H4 range right now, so I wouldn't be buying right now. But if that closes as another higher high on H4, then I would be looking somewhere in this area here for a higher low. We'll see what happens. If this just closes as a sweep, then, be looking back down at the bottom of the range. An hour to go until that closes, so that's something to be monitoring. If that closes above, you're looking for a higher low to go long. If that sweeps, then, I'd be thinking it's going to come back somewhere down here or maybe into one of these levels here as a sweep, right? Like say it closes up here as a sweep, but then it comes and sweeps and closes above, well, then you'd be looking to go long again because you'd be into this demand again, having swept a low. That's what I'd be looking for. Pepecoin. I don't know if I've ever looked at this one. I'm pretty sure Takeshi. I've been bull posting about this one for a while. I don't know anything about the coin. I just mark out some levels I'm seeing immediately. Those are monthly levels. Now, yes, on Solana, I said usually you like to look at the bodies and actually look at that. As soon as you got a body closed there on monthly below, it came up and tagged. So that's kind of interesting. As a weekly level, it's close below. Here's your weekly range. So daily has been bearish structure, lower low, lower low, lower low, and you got a higher high, short-term trade, but then it's sold off quite a bit. So let's see where we're at now. In terms of structure, daily is bullish. It flipped bullish when you got a close above here. So then where would I be looking for demand on this? That's a long range, right? If we fib that, well, so far it's finding support on the golden pocket. 786 aligns with the previous weekly level that I drew out, that gray level there. It's actually a weekly and a monthly level. So I think if it comes down to here, it's a good trigger. What else would that also do? Well, it would also be coming in to this daily demand. Like, you see what I'm doing here? These things just layer on top of each other to give you layers to your analysis. So if the pocket here doesn't hold, I would be looking for that weekly level with a daily tag into the daily demand with a weekly sweep of there. Because remember, given it's a weekly level, you can trade down here for a few days and then close back above, and the weekly is still holding that level, right? But I'd be looking for a daily higher low in here. Okay. POG. Okay, POG, daily bullish, daily range. Why was that the daily range? Well, closed above. Higher high. There was the swing low that created the high. Swing high of the range. Your demand is all the way over here, which, look at that. Within the daily bullish range, there's a demand area there, tagged it. Just front ran by the tiniest fraction. So maybe it does still come down into there. It's interacting with the previous all-time high level. H4 is still bullish because your swing low is down here. H12 definitely still bullish. Look at that. On H12, you actually got a wick into that. And on H4. So it came right into the daily demand and tagged. I think if you get another tag into here, it's worth a bid. Especially if you get a sweep of that on H4. It'd be great. Outside of that, you could still be buying here because you're close enough to the range low, like on daily. You're still pretty close. And you're back above the previous all-time high level. Invalidation on daily would be a close below here, even though you're still in an area of demand, like that's your range low. So if it just was a sweep on the daily into here, different story. But if you start closing down here, not a good look. But for now, daily bullish. And tag the demand. Okay, thumb. So thumb we had analyzed a few streams ago. I can't really remember when. But it looks as though it broke structure, and now it's been dealing with this overhead supply. Just trying to see where the bottom of the range would have been. Okay, so this is the bottom of your range. Bearish daily range because it had a daily close below. But it's really just kind of choppy. This is a tough one to analyze based off of, like, you'd love it to be back down here. Unless you're looking at lower time frames. Yeah, so H4. There you go. That's how I'd analyze that. All right, you got to close above there on H4. Higher high, H4. Look at that. Look at that. And there's even your swing lows there. So there's your H4 demand. Tagged it perfectly. You'd be looking for H4 to hold that. But also realizing or recognizing that daily there is some supply there. But your H4 range is this. And if it comes back deeper into the H4 range or into the H4 demand, I'd be looking for that daily sweep of that level. If this makes a higher high here on H4 and starts eating its way through this daily overhead supply, right? Like this is still all potential area for sell-off, but you're starting to get signs that it's reversing. Would I necessarily buy here? Maybe if you get a close above that. Like if that ends up as a sweep, I would say we're coming back down here. If it closes above that, then you could look for a trigger. Okay. GIZMO. Someone had asked about this. They said that their friend was super bullish on it. I mean, when you look at this chart, why would you think this is bullish? What possibly, let's clear this up. That looks ugly. What about this would say bullish, even remotely, to you? I believe they said their friend was trying to convince them to buy, and all he saw was it kept going down. And that's all I see. There's absolutely nothing about this chart that would make me want to buy right now. You don't even have an hourly reversal. Like here's your hourly range. It's a wide one. And it can't even to get up into the supply on hourly. Like there's your hourly range. Maybe if you get a sweep, like this didn't even sweep, so there wasn't even that much reaction. But maybe if you get a sweep of that, there's your thesis. But come on, tell your buddies in the wrong coin. And the last request is for this nice token. Now I think this was a honeypot, yeah. Last transaction 5 hours ago. This was a honeypot. So let's get rid of that. $200 volume. Like there's science that this was a honeypot before requesting a chart like this. Transfer possible. Honeypot, yes. Okay, guys, before requesting a ticker like that, do a little bit of research first, please. Okay, well, we've managed to get through every chart on the list. And in under, we just hit the 2-hour mark. Amazing. Amazing. Oh, someone just put in a last-minute request. Was that for CLIPPY from Vista? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, there we go. Let's take a look at CLIPPY real quick. I know that it's done a remarkable reversal off the bottom. Yeah. So CLIPPY had been bullish day one, sold off aggressively, lost structural levels, right? As soon as it closed below there, H1 closed below, underside tag rejected. H1 closed below, underside tag rejected. Like it kept putting in lower lows. But then it started just chilling for a while. So say you were looking at this and you're like, what could have been a move here? Well, on H1, let's find the dead bottom. You had an hourly range and, excuse me, I believe, yep, you got a sweep. Now you would have had to, I mean, a 20K market cap, you know, you put in a 0.1 just for shits and giggles to see what you can do because you had an hourly sweep there, right? It kind of coincided with when Vista tokens were waking up again. Like new metas emerge and like the first day, super hot. And then like the next 24 to 48 hours, they kind of cool. But more often than not, they'll start to bubble up again. So like if you had a watch list going of these tokens, you saw your hourly range, saw that Vistas were starting to heat up again, you got a sweep. Well, excellent trigger there. But now let's see what we're working with now. So CLIPPY, here's your hourly demand. Here's your hourly range. Why is it not this one? Or why is there not a bottom of a range here? Well, because the swing low is down here, so it's still the same range. Here's your higher high break. It came in already and bounced. If it comes back down into here, you could be looking for another bounce. Let's say it sweeps that. Or if it closes above here. At the moment, you're either in this trade or you're waiting. I don't think you do anything here because buying here, top of the range, bottom of the range. Like, which way does your risk reward skew, right? Like, that's what you have to ask yourself when you're looking at something like that. So anything down into here could be worth it, or a close above here. Let's put in the important levels. I see. No, look at that. He even swept that. So get rid of this. Another stab down into here, worth it. Close above there, worth it. Right now, not as much. I mean, you got an M15 higher high here. So you could be basing a trade based off of that. But even then, that's coming back down here, right, for demand. So I think you're waiting. One of two things. Down into here, as low as possible, or a sweep of there on H1, or close above. Anything else? Too risky. Because you don't know which way it's going to go. Okay. Are there any favorite risk reward setups recap? I mean, anything from that we just looked at that was in bullish structure. I mean, I've been noticing that the things that get requested are being requested for a reason, and it's because they've been doing well. And often that's why people want to find out about them and learn and see where my analysis lies on them. I think anything from this list outside of, I'm going to axe this. Let's get rid of this because that's not good. But most of the tokens on here have been bullish. So like, look to these tokens, take a look through them on your own time, try and run your own analysis on them based off of what you've been learning here and see what you come up with. I mean, pair this with the attention score for people that are in Chain Edge. I mean, these are the main tokens that I keep seeing pop up all the time. I mean, there's one that we didn't get to. What was it called? Yeah, I mean, I see some people talk about this vibes token, but it keeps I mean, if it sweeps that range low on an H4, but I mean, that risk reward wise, I wouldn't say because it's in bearish structure, right? Power naps. Truthfully, just look for the things that have been strong and then try and figure out where the higher time frame setup is and just be patient, right? Or be trading new pairs and wait for the 1, 2, 3 tokens of the day that emerge as the strongest, and you wait for the complex pullback into an area that you want to do business in, and then you trade those. And those are probably your best probability for a fast 3 to 5x. All these other coins are going to take time to play out. Okay. Do you guys have any further questions? Or should we be wrapping it up? 2 minutes and 10. I think we wrap it up. Let me do all this stuff. Okay. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoy what I'm doing here. I want to help. I want to have this channel grow. And the only way we can grow is by you spreading the word and telling people that you know that you're either making money or not, or preventing yourself from losing money. Those are the two goals. And if that's what's happening, and we can teach more people how to trade these markets and what to look for, then it's, you know, there's the meme of it right there, right? Like the more people that are looking for the same setup means it's more likely to unfold. And that's all that TA is, right? I've said before, like, yes, TA is a meme, but it's a meme based on probabilities. And the more people that are looking for levels that you're looking at, the probability that that is going to unfold goes up. So the more people that watch these streams and learn a little bit more beyond just the basics and have a basis for why they're taking a trade setup, what their thesis is, what their invalidation is, what their potential target might be, the overall healthier the markets will be. Like people always complain, oh, Solana's so many cheats, Solana's blah, blah, blah. Well, you just have to remember there's a lot of kids trading on that chain that don't have any basis for trading. They just they're gambling the market. But if we teach more of them how to properly trade these things and what to look out for and how to master the psychological component, then charts are going to trade better. It's just a reality, right? And also why I think at the moment ETH is a better environment to be trading, because levels are being respected. People are stepping in at the right moments. You're starting to see wallets of higher net worth individuals starting to participate again. Gas is creeping up. Like these are all bullish indicators for Ethereum at the moment. Also, reminder, if you're not already subscribed, go to dailyedge.com/subscribe. Excuse me. I gave up smoking recently, and all that crap is just coming up out of my lungs. So apologies for that. Excuse me. Thedailyedge.com/subscribe, which is a daily full of alpha insights and actionable intel written by the OG on-chain wizard, supported by data from ChainEdge and everything that occurred in the previous day on chain. Again, that's a free newsletter. I would highly recommend you subscribe. There are also links in the description below where you'll find links to the Daily Edge Twitter, ChainEdge Twitter, or sorry, X, whatever we want to call it, my X account, On-Chain Wizard's X account, thedailyedge.com, chainedge.io, as well links to the Telegram for the Daily Edge, links to the Telegram group for Astrology for Men, which is where you put your requests prior to the show and we discuss charts and setups and opportunities, and I'll often provide deeper analysis there with write-ups and images, or even just quick setups. If I notice something that's unfolding, I will pop that in and let people know. Also, don't forget that if you sign up to chainedge.io, use the code. Now that looks to me like it's an O, so 0xRapture 0x10 off. Now you can just copy that from the description below, so you don't have to figure out what that is in typing. But it's 10% off lifetime fees at ChainEdge. Also, if you appreciate what I'm doing and you're looking for a new trading terminal, why don't you use my ref link for BullX? Not a partnership or an official sponsorship or anything like that. It's just my personal ref link for Bullux, where it saves you 10% off fees and also gives a little bit of kickback into my pocket, which helps put these shows on. I have to say, the execution on Bullux is fantastic. I'm not the biggest fan of the charts, although I believe they've been working on them a bit and they've been improving. But the execution and features alone on Bullux make it the best trading terminal at market right now. And you can trade ETH, you can trade Solana, you can trade Base. They just recently launched on Tron, so lots you can do there. And I see there's a few comments. Okay. From Power Naps. New ones as in on Alpha Stream or they pop up on Dex screen or trending. I had to be honest. When it comes to Solana, I'm not doing my discovery typically on ChainEdge at the moment. Given the fact that we only monitor pump fun after they hit Radium, you're often just late to the party on that. So it's not how I'm doing that. A lot of the times it just comes from privileged access to, in private group chats and stuff like that. Like if you start getting in good with some quality people and you get invited into good small group chats, private group chats, like that's where the alpha is flowing, and there's good solid groups of people head down hunting. That's where you're going to find those types of plays. But if you're not finding those plays on the first leg, you just look for the play that the 1 or 2 or 3 tokens, however many on the day, that end up having high volume and pushing up over 1 million market cap. And you're just looking for those to have the retrace, because if there's a high enough volume and it wasn't botted or fake volume and the token didn't rug, there is a very high probability that people are going to be looking to enter on a bounce. So you just look for those. See a lot of thank yous. Well, I appreciate all of you guys, and I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up. I do appreciate the questions, and I do appreciate the chart requests. I think I went through all of the things I needed to say. We got through that whole list. Great list today. And on that, we'll exit on some music. Once again, I am 0xRapture. This has been Astrology for Men, brought to you by The Daily Edge. And we'll catch up next time. Bye, everyone.